Welcome to the Vandal Insider Podcast, presented by Inland Orthopedic Surgery and Sports Medicine Clinic of Moscow and Pullman. Let the team that takes care of the Vandals take care of you. Get the latest information on University of Idaho athletics you won't find anywhere else. It's all here on the Vandal Insider Podcast, every fan source for all things Idaho athletics. Here's your host, Dennis Patchin.
Welcome to another edition of the Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast. This week, Idaho Vandal football introduced two new coordinators, Ewan Shoemaker on the offensive side and Lee Stalker on the defensive side. We'll visit with both about their new jobs and what Vandal fans can expect from Idaho's offense and defense this coming season. Also joining this week is Ewan Steele from the men's basketball team, as the Vandals will be home this week for a pair of games against Montana and Montana State. And from the track side, throws coach Julie Taylor will join us. We'll visit with her about this upcoming season. This Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast is presented by Inland Orthopedic Surgery and Sports Medicine Clinic of Moscow and Pullman. As Vandals team physician, orthopedic surgeon Dr. Matt Taylor cares for elite athletes, weekend warriors, and everyone in between. Let the team that takes care of the Vandals take care of you. Welcome back to the Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast. We are now joined by Ewan Shoemaker, who is the new Idaho Vandal offensive coordinator, also the quarterbacks coach. Ewan, first of all, thanks for being on our podcast. Thanks for taking the time on a very busy day for you, and we appreciate you being here.
Oh, not a problem. This is part of the gig that we love, right? Part of the gig that we love, right? Make sure we're taking care of our fans and everybody, but also got to work on making sure we can score enough points next fall too, yeah?
That is, yes, especially, yes, the offensive coordinator is a simple task. Score more points. Defensive coordinator don't allow any points. That's it. Yeah, it's pretty basic. Let me ask you, why Idaho for you right now?
Well, obviously, love my time in the Big Sky. I am a Northwest, Pacific Northwest guy growing up. My wife, myself, both grew up on the west side of Washington, and when I did leave for Hawaii, it was, a pretty special opportunity. But getting back to the Pacific Northwest is something that was, a big part of, our kids and growing up. But, the excitement of competing in the Big Sky against the Montanas and the Montana States and, the SAC states and those guys is, probably some of the funnest years I had.
You were at Eastern Washington University as the offensive coordinator on a high-powered offense. You had Eric Berrier there for a couple of seasons. What is the key to being successful offensively in this conference?
Well, I think you still have to be able to run the ball physically between the tackles. I think that's the first and foremost. And, from a Coach Eck to a Coach Ford to myself, like that's got to be the starting point. As wide open and all the stuff as people thought of us at Eastern, you could probably still go back and look at, there was probably a fairly balanced run pass call, balance there. And, that is important. We need to be physical. We need to run the ball between the tackles. The two best teams in our conference right now run the ball physically with tight ends and between the tackle, right? And we have to be able to do those things to win in December.
Are you, as an offensive coordinator, you had multiple stops. How has that led you to where you are now as far as your scheme is concerned, but also your philosophy?
Well, I think, scheme evolves regardless of changing, years and things like that. Year in and year out, the scheme will evolve. The things that we did at St. Cloud State in Minnesota, are similar and very similar to what we did at Central Washington. But there was a change and an evolution. And then when I went to Eastern Washington, there was, change and things that we did that were different there, but things that were very similar still to what we were doing at Central Washington. And then on down the line, go to Hawaii and, add some run and shoot thoughts and ideas to certain concepts and passing trees and things like that. But, there is an evolution year in and year out. So making that part of the process, right? How do we evolve is important, and we're doing it right now. That's what I just was in meetings right now, and we are. What does that mean to us at Idaho, right? What is mine? What is yours? And what is ours, right?
What was it weird to put on black and gold?
Oh, there's no doubt. There's been a lot of different colors, but this is the first, yeah, black and gold in my career, I think. So, yeah, definitely. But it looks good. I feel like I can make it work.
Well, I always say it's slimming for me as a broadcaster. So
Hey,
whatever.
I need all the help I can get too. So.
You talked about running the football. How much of, because now in the day and age where there's not a lot of carryover from year to year with guys, be graduation or the transfer portal, how much were you watch last year's, tape of what they were doing, the scheme that they were running, the individuals that will be returning to the roster, and then where do you go from there once you have, processed all of that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is how do we, scrape together the things that can be the same for those guys, same as learning, right? The things that can be the same as what they've done in the past, so there's comfort level, and then the things that I need to have for my comfort level to be what I think this offense needs to look like, and then finding a way to teach it, install it, practice it, so that we can get to what we call, that speed of execution. How fast can I get them up and running to where we can execute at a championship level, right? At a, national offensive level, right? Which I've seen and done and have understand what it takes. What is it going to take to get that to them so that we are executing at a high level as fast as possible?
When you took the Idaho job and said to Coach Ford, yes, yes, I'm on board. What's the first thing that went through your head?
Am I gonna drive out there or fly out there? No, no. The first thing that went through my head is like, wow, I get to work with Josh Wood finally, because Josh was a committed quarterback to me at Eastern Washington before I left for Hawaii. So it's an interesting deal. He's from my hometown. Like my brother played for his same high school coach. Three of my brothers played for his same high school coach, and Graham Kapowson, where I grew up, and all those things. So yeah, it was funny. I told my son, Joshua Wood. He goes, my son's like, oh, we had lunch with him, right? Like, man, I can't believe you remember that, but yeah, we did. So.
Well, when you look at him, obviously you've had a history with him as a guy you recruited, but when you look at him, does he fit with what you're trying to do?
100%. That was the reason why he was the guy. Where we were, we had Kakoa Visparas, right, as well, who ended up being an all-everything guy at Eastern and then at Tennessee Tech, and he's in that mold, and Josh was going to be the next guy in that mold, and it fits very well with what I want to be offensively and gives us what I feel is the most dynamic play calling opportunity is when he can be a plus in the quarterback run game as a design run, but also in the read and RPO game.
When you, like you said, you were in a meeting right before we taped this interview, and we taped it on Monday, the day of your press conference. But how important for a coordinator? It's not like just you're a position coach, you're a coordinator. How important is the work that you're going to do this winter leading up to spring football and then spring football itself? How important is that for a coordinator in his first year in a school?
It's everything. This is the foundation of what we are going to be. And that foundation is starting in the meeting room right now, developing the playbook to what it needs to be for Idaho football, and building this out for, the Vandal family, and what it's going to look like is going to be foundationally built right now in these meetings. So we got to build the playbook out, and with the understanding of how is it that we are going to make this easy to digest, be dynamic enough to win in the Big Sky, and be the right thing for our players.
Ian Shoemaker, the new Idaho Vandal offensive coordinator, also a quarterback's coach. You talked about Joshua Wood, but one quarterback isn't going to work anymore. You got to have multiple guys in there. and there seems to be some spots available on your roster. What are you looking for in quarterbacks not named Joshua Wood?
Well, first thing is, great people and great leaders. And a lot of times those great people and great leaders can make really good decisions really fast. Right, that's what it comes down to, playing quarterback first and foremost. Yes, arm talent. You got to have the requisite size and athleticism. If you can run and you're really sudden in the change of direction and stuff like that, even better for the zone read run game and things like that. But what I'm finding is the best guys are the guys that are no issues off the field, good students, played multiple sports, and can make really fast decisions that are quality decisions and distribute the ball to their playmakers. So that's the main thing, accuracy. There's all kinds of metrics that we look at as far as arm strength and height and weight and all that stuff. But the stuff that it comes down to is just, can the guy make good decisions, find the guy and be accurate with the ball and do it over and over, game in and game out.
Ian, how different will your offense look to the person sitting in the stands next year?
Well, I think there's I think a lot of what you see in college football is very similar, right? The things that we're going to do are going to have, the tight end attached, the quick game going on, the downfield RPO, the play action shots and things like that. So what you're seeing in college football across the country and what you saw last year is really good football. Like, there's really good football plays and there's really good ideas and things like that. So those things will probably look very similar. Like, oh, there's a tight end out there and there's a run to outside zone to inside zone and things like that. But, where you'll see some differences probably and quickly would be, maybe some more no huddle and some tempo that you weren't seeing. Like, we'll be in and out of huddling and going no huddle a little bit more and adding some tempo to the deal and trying to increase our rate of play and the number of snaps that we get. And then, like I said, the things that you may not see is, the things that we're doing from a decision-making standpoint, route running standpoint, to, quarterback operating. And hopefully what you're seeing is guys that look like they're on rhythm, on time, within the footwork confines, and playing, some clean football, right? And again, not saying that wasn't what was happening last year. I haven't, spent a ton of time looking over last year. I'm concentrating on what we have in the building and how we're going to this playbook to take advantage of the guys that we have. But I'm not spending a ton of time evaluating, all those other things. So hopefully what you see just from my standpoint is, clean, crisp, and, kind of on time and on phase football.
Ian, we appreciate the time. Thanks for sharing some of your insight with us. Good luck with your new job as the offensive coordinator at the Idaho Vandals, and thanks for being on the Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the time, and V's up.
This Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast is presented by Inland Orthopedic Surgery and Sports Medicine Clinic of Moscow and Pullman. When he's not caring for the Vandals as team physician, orthopedic surgeon Dr. Matt Taylor provides the same MVP orthopedic care to our entire region. At Inland Orthopedics, our team is your team. Welcome back to the Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast. We are now joined by the Idaho Vandals' newest defensive coordinator, Lee Stalker, who joins us. Lee, first of all, congratulations on your job, and thanks for being here with us on the podcast today.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Let me ask you a little bit about why Idaho, why this job for you?
I think first and foremost, looking for an opportunity to coordinate again, something I've done in my past and something I was looking forward to after this past fall season. And honestly, once I was able to interview and connect with Coach Ford and be honest with you, or the alignment that we have in terms of how we see ourselves as coaches and the purpose that we have in this profession, it was a very easy decision on my part. I think the culture and what they're building here at Idaho is something special. I'm extremely privileged, right, for the opportunity, but happy to be here.
I talked to Ian Shoemaker, and he said one of the things for him, it was important to get back to the Pacific Northwest for him and his family. You really don't have any ties to the West at all, at least that I know about. So why Idaho?
To me, I think it's for something new, right? I've got a little bit of family in Salt Lake City. It's about the farthest west that I have any, roots or ties. But for me, honestly, it's a challenge. It's something new. I think in life, the opportunity to experience new things is phenomenal, not only for myself, but for my wife and my kids. But honestly, I'm excited. Obviously, the ability to recruit dynamic players out here and coach against some of the best teams and opponents in the country as well.
You spent the last couple of years at Iowa State in multiple roles. How much on-field coaching were you doing?
Yeah, really, all 3 years I was on the field. The
Okay.
first 2 years really coaching with the defensive line, and that entailed everything from meetings and on the field individual drills and team sessions, and really all 12 months of the year. I had transitioned the third and final season there to assisting with the linebackers, but same as.
So getting back to the coordinating job, what are you trying to do with your defense?
To me, it's about presenting and offering our players a systematic approach of defense and truly a system that in many of ways will elevate our players, right? Take our players that are very average, right, to great and great to elite and continue to uplift and grow the program and success. Obviously, there's plenty of things that we believe in terms of our aggression and the intelligent aggression we'll play with on defense and the situational awareness and ultimately the attitude and effort we'll play. But for me, I think the special part of what we do and what I bring here to Idaho is really a systematic level of defense that's player-centric, and I think guys enjoy playing in.
Scheme-wise, I mean, are you, this is kind of a crazy way to ask this. Are you a normal person in how you line up, or are you doing some exotic, crazy stuff?
You'll get a little crazy from me. You get a little bit from us now. But honestly, you'll see some traditional looks, and I think we'll be extremely multiple. I think the multiplicity, if you teach it correctly and you allow your players to have consistent techniques and consistent variables, honestly, you can be as multiple as you want and really cause chaos for opposing offensive coordinators and obviously quarterbacks that have to make a lot of decisions. I think that's key.
What makes a good defense?
A good defense, I think first and foremost, I think the passion in which you play, right? Getting guys to play fast, to play hard for one another. I think when you've got a group of young men on the field, group of men that are unified, that are connected, it goes a long way. Obviously, when you talk about the fundamentals of, defense is knowing where your help is, right? And collectively playing, 11 is 1. All those things are really good. I said, but ultimately, I think if you get a group of young men to trust and believe in what you're doing, trust from player to player and coach to player, I think success is inevitable.
What did you learn at the Big 12 level, at the Power 4 at Iowa State that will help you be a better coordinator at Idaho?
I think for me, it prepares you for the multiplicity that I think this conference also gives you. At one time, I think the Big 12 was very spread and run and gun and tempo. And as the years have developed, right, the Big 12 is a conference that you really see everything. People that want to line up and just run the ball and be physical at the point of attack versus, trying to beat you with just the athleticism. But honestly, the lessons learned from, our head coach at time and everything from building a program, leading a program, from game management, and along with our defense coordinator, John Haycock, who I actually played for back in college as a senior, but has been a huge mentor to me. And I've taken, lasting lessons from Iowa State for sure.
Well, when you meet with your defensive guys, if you haven't already done that, or new guys coming in, what's the message that you're trying to get across early on?
Yeah, first and foremost, the relationships, the relationships and trust. That's where it starts. Long before we ever get the opportunity to get on the field and teach you how to tackle or teach you how to defend a third down scheme, we're going to be built here on relationships and trust. Getting to understand each other as the men that we are. I want to understand these players of who they are, why they're here at Idaho, and really what they want to get out of their opportunity here. Ultimately, right, and help them chase their goals. But if I can really stand on the foundation of anything in terms of why I coach, it's truly the opportunity to teach, motivate, and lead others, players and coaches alike. But that's what my passion is for.
We're taping this interview on Monday, and I don't know how much you've actually looked at what Idaho did last year. So I'll ask you that. Have you spent any time looking at what they did on defense last year?
I have.
Okay, so then the average person, when they sit in the stands, wants to know how much different will it look than what was going on last year.
I think, ultimately the game of football is not that complicated, right? I think there's a lot of similarities no matter where you're at in the country and who's essentially calling an offense or a defense. You're going to see some similarities. I think what you'll find is that maybe from a situational standpoint, from a structure, the expertise that I've had and really the mentors along the way in my career for the past, 16 years have really prepared me to have the answers and the solutions for our kids. Ultimately, giving them the opportunity to be successful is all that they care about, right? We also want to be able to win games, but I think the expertise there will help. Ultimately, I think if you turn on the film or if you're at the game, I want to see that our guys get lined up, that they play fast and honestly dominate with the fundamentals that we're teaching.
Lee Stalker, the new Idaho Vandal defensive coordinator, joining us on the Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast. Lee, I know that there were a large number of seniors on this defensive side of the football. Not only that, there's some players have entered their name in the transfer portal. How much work is there for you and your defensive coaches to put a defense together here in this offseason?
Across the country, I think every offseason in the world of college football nowadays, there's always work to be done, right? They've signed a phenomenal high school class, right? In review of talking with Coach Ford and reviewing those players and getting to start to know them as well from afar, like signed a phenomenal class. So those guys will help us in the future, no doubt. From the front defensive line, linebackers, and our DBs, a phenomenal class. I think we are also in the process now of targeting some veteran players, some guys who we can attract here to Idaho to join our defense that have experience, that can make an immediate impact at all three levels. So we've been a part of that. We've got guys on campus already this week, and we'll continue for the next really 10, maybe 14 days of continuing to find the right guys that fit us. But there is some work, but I don't think it's unlike anywhere else in the country right now.
Obviously, at Iowa State, you guys had transfers and guys coming and going. So what's important when you're trying to find a transfer student that's going to have to come in and play immediately? What's the most important thing from your perspective that you're looking for?
Yeah, I think the first thing that always jumps off, and I think what you notice immediately is obviously the skill set, right? Seeing film and saying, hey, the young man can play. He fits what we want to do on defense, right? He's a great additive to our team in that regard. But I think first, the thing you've got to find out next is truly the character of the young man, right? Doing your due diligence of talking to that said school that he's transferring from. Hopefully a lot of us have a lot of connections and personal relationships with coaches that we can really find out the truth of why he's leaving. Because ultimately, I think Coach Ford has done a great job of creating a culture that is very much so of a servant leadership. Guys feel like they're cared for and they're wanted. So we haven't had many guys leave the program. We have not had many choose to go into the transfer portal. So we want to be sure that we're still building the culture the right way. Not only talented players, but great character, great people as well.
Being a coordinator again, does that get your blood boiling? I mean, are you ready to play tomorrow? I know you got to put stuff in, but I mean, is it that feeling for you right now?
Absolutely. Like again, I told you earlier that it was a goal of mine to get back into this opportunity to again lead a defense, to help teach and mentor coaches and players alike. But no, it's extremely exciting. I've got had a defensive meeting, and our head coach is sitting there right by my side because he cares about defense. It's a phenomenal feeling to be a part of. And honestly, I can't wait to get us on the field. There's a lot of time, a lot of work to be done before we ever get out there for what is spring ball. Long ways before we ever kick off week 1 versus Utah. But ultimately, like I'm excited every day. I can't wait for our kids, our players to get back next week as well.
Obviously you've been multiple places, and when you come in, especially as a coordinator, how important is between now and the end of spring football for what you're trying to do, especially in this first year?
I think it's critical because I do think the foundation, again, it goes back to those relationships that you're building within the staff and building with the players. You want them to get to know you personally and not just as said coach, not just as your coordinator and the title that you have. I think that's critical. I think it's extremely important. It's my responsibility to teach with a lot of clarity. So when our players are hearing things for the first time from whether myself or our staff, that there's clarity, there's confidence in what we're doing, and ultimately like giving them an environment that it's a want to environment, right? That they can truly invest in what they're doing and not feel like they're sacrificing or being forced to do something, but truly enjoy this game of football.
I mean, because it is about that. I mean, it's a business, it's important, but it's also supposed to be fun.
Yes, football is always fun. Winning makes it fun at times as well, right? Losing games is never fun. But no. I think the process, when we have to work, we're going to work hard. And if there's time to relax and sit back and talk about something other than football, I think that's extremely valuable. Right? When there's times for all of us to be dads and husbands, I think that's extremely valuable as well. But the work will get done. I love the people in the building, love everything I've seen thus far. I think, from coaches and players alike, they're kind of hungry to kind of get back to those winning ways and compete in the big sky.
Not being in this conference before, is there a bit of a learning curve for you as you start your process of getting familiar with not only teams, but areas, recruiting places, those kind of things?
For sure. I do think from a opponent prep, I think what you're trying to do is obviously learn who these opponents are, what their strengths and their weaknesses are, kind of the history of that. And to some degree, like you mentioned with the transfer portal, some of these teams are brand new every year as well, right? They're combating the same issues that we have. But I think when you look at, the conference football, man, we'll have great solutions. When it comes to recruiting, I'm a firm believer that if you can relate to people, you can connect, and you're willing to put the effort towards, you can recruit anywhere in the country. So for me to go around the Pacific Northwest and to recruit, and down into Phoenix and in the Arizona areas to recruit, there's no doubt that we'll have a great impact and continue to improve the skill set and the talent here at the Idaho defense.
Lee Stalker, the new defensive coordinator for the Idaho Vandals. Congratulations again on your new position. Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it, and good luck.
I appreciate you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Today's Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast is presented by Inland Orthopedic Surgery and Sports Medicine Clinic of Moscow and Pullman. As the Vandals team physician, orthopedic surgeon Dr. Matt Taylor cares for elite athletes, weekend warriors, and everyone in between. Let the team that takes care of the Vandals take care of you. Welcome back to the Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast. We are now joined by Ewan Steele from the men's basketball team. Thanks for being here. How are you?
No problem. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I always asked student athletes why they picked the University of Idaho, but I'm really interested because you were from the Metro Toronto area, a little town called Alton, which is, an hour and a half, you say, outside of Toronto?
Yeah, an hour and a half outside of Toronto in a little town called Alton. It's just inside this bigger area called Caledon. Yeah.
Okay. So how in the world did you wind up here?
That's a great question. Coach Laird had a connect with one of my prep school coaches, Ray Kim, and they set things up, and then I got on the phone with Coach Laird, had a good call with him. Things progressed forwards, got on the Zoom call with Coach Pribble and the rest of the coaching staff, and things went well from there.
Did you, when you started thinking about the University of Idaho, they said you're going to Moscow, Idaho. Did you have to go I got to find where I'm going on a map?
Yeah, for sure. That was the first thing I had to do. Is I have no idea. Was this Moscow or where am I at right now?
So when the decision, as it was going down the line to come here, what did your mom and dad have to say?
Well, they were there on the Zoom call. They agreed with everything the coaching staff said. They thought it was a good fit for me, and then they trusted in me. They believed I would make a good decision, and they put their full faith in me.
Was there any point in you in your recruiting process, or just being a kid, saying I want to go to the U.S. to play, or I want to go somewhere not close to home?
Oh, for sure. The goal being back home was definitely the U.S. to go to the NCAA, go to D1. So when this opportunity came around, it was kind of just perfect.
Obviously, you're 6'9", so basketball was probably a sport growing up, but you grew up in Canada.
Yeah.
How much hockey did you play as a kid?
Surprisingly, I didn't play a whole lot. I played one season of house league ice hockey, and then didn't really work for me. But I was a big baseball guy, a bunch of lacrosse, a little bit of volleyball. But yeah, basketball is always my first love.
Were you always the tallest kid in your class?
Yeah, for sure. I was always the tallest kid in my class until grade 12. That's when I got a 7-footer in the class, and I was number 2.
When were you starting to be taller than your teachers?
Teachers, oh man, that was around grade 6 to grade 7. Yeah, I just remember having a growth spurt and coming into class, and I was just looking down on everyone, so that was always kind of funny.
That's pretty cool. What is it about basketball that you like?
I just love the whole team aspect. I mean, like, you can't do it by yourself, honestly. Like, everyone has to work together, and, like, at the school, it's a great family environment.
When you came to Idaho, obviously Canada and the U.S. have a lot of things in common, but there are a couple of things that we do differently. What was the first thing you noticed about when you came here to be a student? It was like, well, that's different than home.
Oh, man. There are a lot of similarities. Like, it's not as cut and paste as, like, it seems. But I will say one thing I did notice is that, like for some reason, the portion sizes here are pretty big. Like, I'd go to McDonald's, and then I'd get, like, a huge burger and huge fries, and I'm like, holy cow, like, this is not what I'm used to.
I know that you went home for Christmas and you spent some time at home, but after you've been gone for 2 or 3 months, is there something you really miss from home?
Yeah, outside of, like, my family, like, that's obviously number one, family and friends. But I'd say, like coming from Canada, I'm a big winter guy. I enjoy, like, winter sports and being outside in the snow. And I mean, I know we get some here, but, like, it's nothing back home. So
right.
I do kind of miss the snow, which is kind of weird to say, honestly.
Well, we're taping this on Tuesday morning, and when you hear this podcast that we put out on Wednesday, you may have snow in your area that you don't have now. Are you excited for – because we're supposed to get a couple inches today.
That'll be good, yeah. I'm excited for that. I do enjoy the cold quite a bit.
I always ask this of my Canadian friends because it is one of my favorite dishes of all time. Are you a poutine guy?
I'm a huge poutine guy. I do enjoy it quite a bit. My mom makes a very good one back home.
Yeah, there's nothing. And for those of you who don't know what poutine is, Google it, and you'll thank me later. So yeah, there you go.
Sure.
You're playing more than you did last year. Was it hard last year to be on the team but not play a lot?
Oh, for sure. It was definitely hard. Like, you're on the team. You do want to get on the court. But I kind of knew that coming in. Like, we had Juice, Kyson, 2 seniors ahead of me. So it was nice to just learn from them as much as I could, get as many reps as I could in practice. And then it was kind of preparing me for this upcoming year, or I guess this year.
Yeah. And for those who don't remember, you did suffer a sprained ankle last year at the shooter or the night before practice at Montana. How was that to deal with that? Was that the first time you were ever really injured and missed games because of an injury?
I had a few injuries throughout high school, but like this was the first time in my college career, and that was kind of a bummer because I cracked the rotation. I was playing some minutes, and then I just went down with an ankle sprain, and that really messed with me a good amount, but. Got back, got all fixed, and I'm good to go again.
Yeah. How did you mentally battle through that? Because obviously as a freshman, there are all kinds of mental things going on that have nothing to do with basketball, being in a foreign country, being at college, being all of those kind of things. How did you deal with that mentally just to get you through that?
It was a lot of calls back home to mom and dad and like to my previous coaches because they've all gone through stuff like that before. But yeah, they just told me, like, take your time. I mean, it's a part of what happens. Like, it's going to happen. It might happen again, God forbid. But yeah, you just got to take your time with it, and you'll be back eventually.
Who's most likely, if they're at a game, to yell something to you from the stands, your mom or your dad?
Mom, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, she's always been doing that ever since I was a little kid. Dad has always been more on the quiet side, but Mom's the first one to let me know if I'm doing something good or bad.
So, like, if your mom's here at ICCU Arena and there's a full crowd like we had for the Eastern game, it was really loud, can you still hear your mom yelling?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I can hear her cutting through the voices, like, go 15! Something along those lines.
Was your mom an athlete?
She did some things. She was a big, I don't know what the term for it is. Like, she, like, rode horses. So,
an equestrian.
Equestrian,
yes.
Yeah. She did a lot of that. But no, like, sports or anything like, or, like, ball-related sports or anything like that.
Are you good on a horse?
I'm capable on a horse.
Okay.
I wouldn't call myself good on a horse.
Okay, so you know what to do and not to fall off, but other than that.
For sure.
Okay, well, that's a skill in itself, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll have to see if Titus will take me sometime. Titus is pretty good on them.
Is he?
Yeah, he's huge on them. Yeah.
Well, he grew up on the reservation in Lapway. I mean, he's he's Mr. Outdoors.
Oh yeah, for sure. See, he shows me some pictures of him, and that's just a whole other world out there.
Conference season is underway. Played the first conference game last week. This week we have Montana's. I mean, what's the feeling for you as a player when conference season starts? Is it different than non-conference?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely get into more of a tight schedule. Like, we know what our Mondays look like. We know what our Tuesdays look like. We know leading up to the games what we need to do. And it's kind of nice because, like, now you know the teams you're going to play and, like, the players and how they work and everything. So it's definitely, I'd say it's more exciting. And you get to have your rivalries, like your Eastern Washingtons and your Idaho States, for example. So, yeah, those are always fun.
What are you studying here at the University of Idaho?
I'm studying business economics.
Okay, so that's a wide, as I spread my hands as far as I can, that's a wide path. What do you hope to do with that?
So I'm hoping to take business and get into law, to go business law route. Yeah, trying to be a lawyer. That's ideal in my opinion.
There's a law school here.
I know, it's perfect. That was a part of the deciding
was
process. Yeah, it was.
What kind of lawyer? I'm business law, obviously, but that's another wide area. Is it like contract law, something? What?
Yeah, I haven't really fully narrowed that part down yet, but business law is kind of where I'm hoping to land.
Where is anybody there a lawyer in your family?
Yeah, so my aunt, she's a lawyer. She's a lawyer back home in Ottawa, and my uncle was a lawyer, and now he's a judge. So it's kind of like my whole family's involved with the law. So, yeah, it's kind of, I always have someone to reach out to if I have any questions for it.
Are you enjoying your time here? Take basketball off the table, being a student here? Is this a fun place to be?
Yeah, for sure. This is a fun place. I've developed a good group of friends, outside of basketball, but within our basketball team, we always hang out at each other's houses, and we always have a good time doing stuff together. So, yeah, this is a great group.
People have described you a little bit as a shy guy, but you don't seem to be on this podcast. Is that just, are we reading you wrong?
I mean, I'd say initially I do come off as more of a shy person, but once you get to know me and I kind of get out of my shell, I guess that'd be the right way to put it. I wouldn't say I'm shy. I'd say I'm more out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're quiet, but when you say something, it's important, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
That's the Canadian in you, being really nice, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Is that a bad? Do you hate that rep when people say Canadians they're the nice? Because I believe this: the Canadians are the nicest people on the planet.
Yeah, I'd say a good amount of Canadians are nice, but when it needs to I don't know, when we need to be mean, we can be mean, if that makes sense.
That's that movie from Roadhouse, Be Nice Until It's Not Time to Be Nice.
For sure. Yep. That's kind of how it is.
Ewan, we appreciate the time. Continued success in both basketball and in your schooling here, and we appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
The Vandal men are back for a pair of home basketball games this week. Thursday night to host Montana, and Saturday afternoon, Idaho will be hosting Montana State. The women will also play twice this week at Montana and Montana State on the road before returning back to the ICC Arena next weekend. This Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast is presented by Inland Orthopedic Surgery and Sports Medicine Clinic of Moscow and Pullman. When he's not caring for the Vandals as the team physician, orthopedic surgeon Dr. Matt Taylor provides the same MVP orthopedic care to our entire region. At Inland Orthopedics, our team is your team. Welcome back to the Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast. We are now joined by Julie Taylor, assistant track coach in charge of throws here at the University of Idaho. She is no stranger to the University of Idaho, and we appreciate you being here. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
You know, before we started this interview, I found out something about you that I did not know, that 0 to 18, you grew up in Moscow, went to Moscow High, then you came to the University of Idaho.
Correct.
Then you got into coaching at the high school here in Moscow. Then you became a coach at the University of Idaho, then went to Washington State, and now you're back. We figured out you've never lived anywhere but with the exception of that radius between Pullman and Moscow.
That's correct. Very unusual for athletics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel lucky or not?
I am completely lucky to be able to be in a situation where you grew up in the Palouse, and the Palouse is a wonderful place to be, and I'm very thankful to be, have that opportunity. And then, I met my husband here, and we raised a family here, and it's been perfect. I was able to see my kids play and do sports, and my family was there too and support them along the way. So it's been very blessed to be back as a Vandal here.
What's the hardest thing about being a track coach?
Well, when I was younger, the balance of having everything with the family and all of that, it's kind of difficult. But, but right now, at this point in my career, it hasn't been that difficult. It's been especially being a Vandal and coming back here has just been a blessing. It's been a really good move for me.
Track is an interesting sport because there are all kinds of different things you can do. You can be big and slow. Mm-hmm. You can be short and fast. It's a sport that doesn't matter what your body type is. There's an event for you.
Exactly. There's always something for someone here, and that's why I encourage everybody to be involved in track at a young age. Get kids out there and get them started, and then they can find their little niche of what they may be good at. And you never know. And sometimes even at a college level, I've had kids come in that may have been a good shot putter or okay shot putter, and then they turn into this fantastic hammer thrower because they just didn't have exposure to it. So that's the cool thing about track. There's a place for everybody.
How did you get into track? This is way back when you were in high school. How did track become part of your life?
Well, I was a 3-sport athlete at Moscow. I had track was kind of the next event. I did volleyball and the basketball, and then track was pretty much what was offered. And I grew up watching my brothers do sports, and so I knew that I always wanted to do sports. So it was kind of like my friends were doing it, I'm going to do it. So I kind of just followed my best friend to the track meeting and started there, and it was great.
Was track just the sport you did just to do something?
It was at first. It was kind of like I'm gonna give this opportunity, see what happens, but I can hang out with my friends and throw things, and see how it went. And it was and then I just started getting better and better, and then I made it to state as a young kid, and so then I was like, oh, this could be something good. And then I won state my senior year, and I had schools look at me, and I was like, wow, what an opportunity. And then crazy that here I am after all those years, that it's a sport I still love. And yeah,
it's wild that you started your coaching career in essence at the college level here, where you went to school, where you grew up. Was there opportunities to go somewhere else away from here, and you just said, no, I feel better, more comfortable here?
Yeah. It was funny because I thought maybe I would pursue elsewhere at some point. But I was working with people that I really enjoyed working with, and to be honest, prior to once I graduated, in back of my head, I was always thinking, oh, if I could be a Vandal coach, I really made it, and so that was kind of like an aspiration. And then all of a sudden I had an opportunity, and then it just, I don't know, my whole being was here on the Palouse. And so the idea of moving wasn't as appealing to me as some probably. And so, staying here and having a family, and then, continuing to do a job that I loved seemed pretty natural. And then, so I just continued to stay.
It's interesting to me because you're at the age where you remember the times where girls weren't allowed to do sports. And you were on that precipice of really the late 70s in Idaho, mm-hmm. where the opportunities and the doors were open. When you look back on that, did you realize what you were doing because you were one of that first generation of girls that were actually getting to play in high school?
Yeah, it was funny because obviously I wasn't thinking of that because the opportunities were there. But then I looked back and I was like, my mom was from a very athletic family. She had two brothers that were professional baseball players, and she never had an opportunity to do sports. And so in my head, I was just like, why didn't you do sports? And she was like, we didn't have that opportunity. There was no chance for me to do a sport. And then I realized, and especially my sister-in-laws, they were, Maureen and Kath Taylor were like the first volleyball players to be at Idaho, and they were the first ones that got scholarships and stuff. And I realized, wow, that was really big at that point to just have these opportunities that women finally have these opportunities to do that. So, I was very lucky because I had other people ahead of me kind of breaking ground. And so I guess I didn't realize until a little bit later, like, wow, I had chances to play and do sports where, my mom didn't, and how crazy that was. And I'm so thankful because, athletics is so important to my life.
Well, pretty much anybody who was 10 years old or not even, maybe even that much in the state of Idaho really didn't have the opportunity.
Exactly. There wasn't that opportunity, and there wasn't the same resources when they started. They hadn't, and so things have changed dramatically, which is, I'm so thankful for.
How did you, obviously, you were an athlete, a three-sport athlete in high school. How did you gravitate more to track than anything else? And then maybe more importantly, how did you gravitate to the throws where you've made your living teaching that?
Yeah, I when I first started, when I was doing track and sports, I guess I didn't really have quite an understanding of where, how good I was. My goal was to make state, and that was always great. But then all of a sudden I had UW contacted me, and then I had other schools contacted me, and I was like, wow. And then I had a good basketball coach that helped me, like, hey, you have some opportunities here. And I was like, oh, this would be great. And then the Vandals contacted me and said, I had this opportunity, and they extended a scholarship to me, and I was like, wow, I want to make this happen. So it worked out.
Julie Taylor joining us, the throws coach here at the University of Idaho, is back for her second stint as a coach here. All right, so your college career is over. Mm-hmm. How did you fall into coaching?
Yeah, it's funny because once I graduated, I thought I was going to teach. That was my degree, and I thought I would kind of extend that. And then I was like, well, I'm going to try coaching. And so I coached volleyball, and then I coached track, and then in back of my mind there was a changeover was happening at Idaho, and so the previous coach, Scott Lorick, it was kind of reached out to me and said, he actually reached out to Tim first, because my husband Tim was already coaching at that point, and then Tim had just got a full-time job and he didn't have time, and he reached out to me and said, would you do this? And I was just like, yes, I want to be coaching for the Vandals. So it was kind of an opportunity that came by, and you just got to go for it.
You look at the throws coach. That is a wide range. Mm-hmm. There's the shot put, there's the discus, there's the hammer, mm-hmm. there's the javelin,
and the weight throw indoors.
Yeah. So that isn't the same athlete.
No, it's a wide range of.
So if you look at a big guy or a big gal, can you say that person's going to be great at shot put and maybe not at discus, or is it like you put everything in their hands and go?
Well, if you have that opportunity, like at Idaho, I have kind of that opportunity to do that. If I have an athlete that has potential, I look at that potential, I'm going to see what they might have, and that's happened. I had an excellent young kid at WSU that walked in and wanted to be a shot putter, but he was, 5'9", nothing, and I just was like, you know what, you're super strong, let's try hammer, and he became top 10 hammer thrower at WSU. And so that kind of thing, sometimes you just see those kids. I've had a number of kids, I would like to try this, but you know what, you might be more of a javelin thrower than this. So certain kids have turned into very good throwers down the road, which is really fun. It's fun to work with those kids and kind of, they can develop and become good athletes, and that's a lot of fun.
What makes a good thrower?
They need to have size. I mean, that's important. Having a 6-foot woman with, who can lift and is strong is very ideal, but we've also had the, kids that are not the biggest kids, but they've got the heart and will work really, really hard. And so that makes a big difference. Having that, aspiration to get better and improve, and that work ethic, and who will hit it really hard in the weight room, but also can run a 30-meter really fast, makes a really good thrower. And so we've had a lot of those kids that are just, that kind of athlete.
Yeah, I had an old throw coach told me one time, you need a big, strong young man or woman, but you also need somebody with quick feet.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I mean, we've had kids that could be the strongest kid in the weight room, but they're not quick and they're not going to be great throwers, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, we've tried, but the kids that, the ideal athletes that we've had that were here at Idaho, they were, probably 6'2", were 3-sport athletes, were kids that could move really well, jump high hurdles, could, over high hurdles, bing,
right.
bing, that kind of thing. And so that always makes a fun athlete. You can turn them into good throwers. So,
do you ever go to the football game and look at all the offensive linemen and say, man, I wish I had all of these guys for a couple of years?
Yes, I've done that plenty of times. And I've when I was at WSU, the rowing team, when I first got there, I didn't have a lot of women throwers, and I'd watch the rowing team because they were all 6 feet women with, strong looking legs. And I was like, I wonder if they throw. Before I started recruiting some kids. But yeah.
Who's the best thrower you've ever coached?
Well, we've had a number of really good kids. We had Katja Schreiber, who was the NCAA champion here, only NCAA champion ever at Idaho. She won the discus in 2001, and then Joachim Olsen was a multi All-American, and he won the national title as well in the shot put. And then Russ Winger was an athlete for us after those guys, and he was outstanding All-American number of times. And then I had Brock Winger at WSU that was a fantastic hammer thrower, and he's still competing kind of on a professional level. We had Michael Botham, who was NCAA All-American a few times as a shot putter, holds the school record here. We've had quite a few kids. We had a fantastic javelin thrower from Latvia who that was here that owns the school record, and he was on the podium at nationals and stuff. So we've had a lot of kids. We've been blessed with some just fantastic athletes that.
This is like asking to pick your favorite kid, but is there one young man or young woman that you coached that from start to finish, it's like you still talk about this person or you still remember this person for what they were able to accomplish?
That's a really hard thing, because you can look at a kid like Joachim Olsen, who was a fantastic thrower, and he turned into this amazing thrower. But I don't know that I could pick one, but, Tim and I have talked about the number of kids that we've coached that maybe weren't not even close to the level of what Joachim was, but they turned into these incredible athletes. Like there was a kid, Mike Marshall, who showed up as a 186-foot javelin thrower here at Idaho, who, had a heck of an arm and turned into a 230 30-foot, I can't remember what his PR was, but I mean, turned into this phenomenal thrower. And you take those kids and, sometimes that's even more rewarding as a coach. I mean, when you have a Joachim, he's an incredible athlete, or Katja, or those guys, they were already so good, but they got better when they came and we coached them. But some of the best kids are those kids knocking on the door and going, "Hey, coach, can I have this opportunity?" And I love that, having that experience.
Are you a hard person to tell an athlete, no, you can't do that?
Am I a hard person doing it? No.
No, is it hard for you to do that?
Oh, for sure. We want to give every kid an opportunity, but that's a conversation you have to have as a coach. We have to watch how many kids we have on the team, and we're going to, deal with that kind of situation. So there's definitely kids that, we've had to say, but I feel like it's very important to give those kids an opportunity, and it's in their hands. Here's the deal. I'll give you this time. You show us your stuff. And if you can do what you can, if you can get to a competitive level, I'll give you that opportunity from then on. But they have to do it. And that's the cool thing about track. It's all about them, that individual doing the work and making it happen.
You've been coaching, I don't want to say how many years, a long time.
Yeah.
But is it still fun? Do you still look forward to that cold day in March where you're going outside trying to get better?
I've done this a long time, and I've told myself every fall, if I don't have that excitement, that feeling right before we start where we're getting ready to go out to practice, if I don't have that, because I always have that little anticipation, and if I don't have that, it's probably time to quit. And to be honest, when I came here, it kind of renewed it. It was kind of like, hey, I'm going to, I could have retired. I've been happy with my career and moved on and, done, whatever you do in retirement, but I wasn't ready. And so this was kind of a natural move, and it worked out great.
Being a graduate, being somebody who grew up here, what's it mean to be a coach at the University of Idaho, and the place you went to school and made so many friends and so many lasting memories?
It's the world to be here, especially at this point in my career. When things ended at WSU, I had another offer elsewhere and stuff like that. So I was considering, moving on. But, this was the natural move. And really, to stay here, it was the decision. It was right. I was like, this is what I want. And my husband Tim was like, you need to be a Vandal. And he was just like, and I was like, well, should I? And he was like, you need to go back. Let's go. And he was pulling out his Idaho shirts, and he was like getting his hat on, and he was like, yeah, but let's go back and be Vandals and finish our careers here. And so it was, when Tracy called and I was just like, let's do this, let's have fun. And I'm really enjoying my time here.
Julie Taylor, the throws coach at the University of Idaho, back here at our alma mater. We appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you. It was great.
That's going to do it for this week's Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast. Thanks to all of our guests this week for joining us. Don't forget to join us each week for the Idaho Vandal Coaches Show, live from 42 Bar Kitchen in Moscow, 6 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Mountain Time on the Idaho Vandals Radio Network. I'm Dennis Patchin saying thanks for listening. We'll see you next time for another edition of the Idaho Vandal Insider Podcast.
This has been the Vandal Insider Podcast, presented by Inland Orthopedic Surgery and Sports Medicine Clinic of Moscow and Pullman. Let the team that takes care of the Vandals take care of you. Get the latest information on University of Idaho athletics you won't find anywhere else with the Vandal Insider Podcast. From in-depth conversations to game previews, the Vandal Insider is every fan's source for all things Idaho athletics.